Okay, great. And I know we'll probably have a couple more people drip in. For those of you that haven't been here before, I'm Eric. We do these masterminds. We've been bouncing them around quite a bit lately. The goal is just to get together, share some ideas. Usually we'll have a prompt or something, an idea we start with, but then they all just end up turning into great conversations and go in a bunch of different directions. You are welcome to pipe in as much or as little as you're comfortable with. If you've got an idea, just raise your hand. I can't see everybody often, so hit me in the chat. I've got that open. If anybody has anything you want to say, don't let me not pay attention to you if you have a great idea. So what I was hoping today is I had a couple prompts and that I thought would be really great to share. And I just thought to kick things off, I would start with a little bit of an anecdote and then this prompt. And then as we're doing this, if you have one of two things, if you have a really big win or something this week that happened that was awesome that you'd like to share, something you stumbled upon, that'd be great. Those are always good to hear throughout this conversation. Also, if you have, if you've had this kind of aching problem or something you've been working on, these groups are great to throw it out because the people here are great at solving problems together. And that's part of the reason why we do this. So, last weekend, I guess it was like Friday, at the end of the week, you go, I went into this kind of like deep pit of thoughtfulness about my, that kind of like, oh, I'm so bummed, like for some reason, for no reason, it's just like, well, there's lots of reasons, but I spent the weekend just being contemplative, and I spent the weekend really thinking deeply about a lot of things. From because we're all business owners, but we're also all creatives, or we all have something we're passionate about. And balancing those two worlds, when you wake up one day and you're like, wait, I haven't released any new music in 2 years. I haven't played a recital in a year and a half, and it hits you that you're like, whoa, the whole fabric of my being, which has not been expressed in all this time, and I haven't even noticed it until just now, right? I bet you all have gone through this thing, somewhere through this. And I just spent the weekend really just trying to think, wow, there's all these things I love to do, all these things I want to do. I want to be a great father and husband and friend. I want to be a business owner. I'm truly feel like I'm an artist in my heart, and I want to, share that with the world. And that's scary. And I was able to I probably spent 2 hours a day just sitting and thinking about ideas, which I don't know if you ever do that, but if you ever carve out ideas to think about things and just do nothing but think, it's really productive. And by Sunday night, I just kind of came to this like really beautiful clearing. And all we and what the goal of it was, and which I feel like it got, was focus, was being like, oh yeah, I only have this many hours, and that's okay. And I'm not going to do everything that I wanted to do, and I can't. But I can be, I hopefully will enjoy the process of what I can do, and face, what these hills and valleys, right? We all have failures, and I think it's so easy to support other people going through their failures and being there for them and helping lift them up. But it's not really that fun to like deal with our own. Right? At least that's how I am. I'd much rather hear about someone else's failures and help them through them than actually face mine and look them head on. So thinking about that a lot this week, and just kind of that trajectory. And our prompt today is it comes down to, hey, what's a problem we want to solve? Is it because we can't solve them all? Is it, I want more time to make art? Or really, what I got to is I kind of came to this moment where a big part of, and this is a side note, is that a lot of art for me is also connecting with people. And I was honest with myself, I also needed that encouragement and the recognition that I used to get from art, right? And I missed that, which I know it sounds selfish, but it's honest. And I was like, wow, I missed this thing. So is it really that I just need more time for art? Or am I missing the recognition I used to get when I could go play gigs and do recitals? And it's hard being honest about what you need. And in business, the same thing. Do I need new clients for my music studio? Or do I really just need to make like an extra 20 grand a year? Right? What is the thing what is the problem I'm actually solving? And I notice in so many groups, you get all these things, we throw out quick answers. We throw out quick ideas. I just want to make a bigger impact. But is that really what we want? And so I was hoping today this would just kind of put some thought and some, spin our wheels a little bit about, do we really have any idea what we want? Or are we just floating through the ether and letting awesome things happen, which is also amazing? Or are we razor focused on what the actual problem is, right? Because maybe all these the things, how do I get more students? How do I get more clients? Maybe it's really, you don't need more clients. You just need the ones you have to pay you more and work the same amount of hours. So then you have 15 hours to work on your voice, right? Or your drawings, Tom, or your whatever your projects are. So I wanted to open that conversation up and just kind of, if someone would like to jump in, and I'm assuming we're probably all experiencing pretty similar feelings, right? And hear kind of what's going on with you, what projects you're working on, how you're feeling about them, if you feel like that your focus is in the right place, and if what's happening with, if someone would like to just kind of tell us a little about what's happening and going on with them, I'd love to hear it. Tom, you look like you're about to hit that mute button.
Yeah, I got.
I want to, and I want to hear your voice, man. It's good to see you. I'm so glad you're here.
You too. I have a couple things that I've kind of been working on and getting back. So with the hiatus of singing, I have two possible gigs in the fall that have not gotten me contracts yet, just because COVID. So this is kind of what you're experiencing with a lot of companies, is that they don't want to send out the contracts until they feel like it's a definitive thing. And so they ask you if you can make those times available, and then you're just sitting there floating around with 2 open months. But anyways, so there's 2 possible gigs, which is nice. So I can try to get back in shape with the singing. And really just by doing that, I've been practicing my own singing, which I haven't done a whole lot of since the pandemic started. At least 15 minutes a day, which is what I tell all my students. And so that's really what's happening in the singing world, aside from the fact that I also learned how to play Super Mario Brothers on the ukulele. And which I also just posted a video on my Facebook page of me playing it. So if you want to comment and tell me how terrible it is, it's great. Now, I also in the studio just brought on 3 new teachers, 2 who are guitar. One of those guitar teachers also teaches ukulele, mandolin, drums, and piano. And then another one is we decided to take on violin and viola. So offering some more instruments. Now I was feeling a bit of anxiety because this took me about 3 weeks of finding the people, putting the advertisement out, and then kind of like weeding out who I want to actually give interviews to, and then who I wanted to give offers to, and knowing that I didn't have like a pool of students to just hand them, and so it's kind of like, in order to expand, do I get all the students and then try to find teachers that are qualified to teach those students, with the possibility that while the students are waiting, they leave? Or do I find teachers that are qualified to teach and then frantically try to fill their studio so that they don't leave? And so I decided to do the second one, trying to figure out how to find more students, but not necessarily through the normal methods. Since now I have violin and viola, that's sort of an instrument that isn't so much like guitar, but somebody just buys a guitar for $50 or $100 and decides they want to take little lessons here and there. The violin is sort of an investment instrument.
Or you rent one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But even still, like, it's not necessarily like it's just an instrument. There's years or months where the kids are literally just sitting there holding the instrument and not really playing. So there's a lot that goes into it. And so who I'm going to talk to, what strategies I'm going to take, which is going to be, I think, slightly different than how I normally have been doing. So that's sort of been my thought experiment for the last week when it comes to how I'm going to approach finding students for violin and viola.
And I've been seeing your posts about that. You're looking at different channels. So let's go back. Let's just go back one step. So you want to bring on 5 or 6 teachers. What was the concept? What was the impetus for that? Let's look deeper. What was the?
Yeah. So, I mean, I myself, so there's 4 of us total right now. And now now actually 7. because three of them are all signed up, and I'm waiting on one more to make it to say yes or no. But the current four of us, two of them, one of them being my wife, so she's like, I'm full, so you can't give me any more students. And then
She's packed.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting for people that are listening and watching is that you and Stephanie have an incredible energy, and by that I mean her energy is incredible, and so is
yeah,
yours. But it's like together, it's a very cool package of like, a dynamic duo. It really comes across that way, and it's got such a great vibe to it, right? So, and you've employed two other people, or you're contracting two other people to teach as well, just because she's booked up and you're booked up.
correct, yeah. And the other two, their availability generally is falling outside the area of when you can get students. They're like, here's my availability, and it's like between 10 and 2, and you're like, that's great, except there's not a lot of people who are available between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. I need availability between 3 and 8. So then it started falling on me to start taking on the new students that were coming in, and I didn't want to take on any more, because I'm sort of already at capacity myself. So the impetus was to then get more teachers involved so that I can give them more students, and eventually myself teach less so that I can then have more time to go and do the performing myself.
Gotcha. And are you excited about this? Do you just love the administrative and the marketing side of it? Are you like, or is this something?
I thought I wouldn't, but I kind of do.
Okay.
Like I really like sitting down and like figuring out schedules and like who can work where and what can do what. I like doing billing and invoicing. I like I like making strategies and like pipelines on how to like get people from the beginning marketing all the way to the sales funnel.
So your problem right now is you're just trying to get more students to fill these teachers up
Correct.
in your area, and to keep that focus. That's what you're grinding on.
Yeah.
Got it. And how's it going? But it seems like so many people are trying to figure out that same thing, as it's this big shift to online. And
yeah, well, I mean, the focus I've been doing is actually just regional. So in the area, I'm not we are doing online, but I'm not like advertising to like the whole country, because everybody's doing that.
yeah,
So
you're way better off going regional.
Yeah. And so right now it's it's in-home and online, but in-home is if it's okay with the parents as well as the teacher. But then voice is not going to be in person yet. Like there's some, I have my COVID guidelines so that I can keep everybody safe. And then, yeah, that's really about it.
You know what, Tom? And because that's awesome. And the thing that I always think about when I think about like you and Stephanie and your deal is I think that you both, if you're both super busy, right? I see you two as like this boutique thing, like super qualified, really good at what you do, awesome energy, majorly well known in your area. Just all, so hopefully you can charge sky high and be totally packed, because I see it as like a niche, boutique type in your region, really well known. And if you can transfer that to your other teachers, great. But the core of it is you two, right? Which everything you put out is so cool, right? And then because you also have your other thing you'd like to do, which is your visual art that you're really getting into.
Yeah, and that actually I haven't sat down. I spoke to another artist friend of mine about how to sell artworks and stuff like that, and he sent me an email with like in-depth places of where to actually like post it and where you can sell. I just haven't like actually sat down, and I have over like 80, almost 100 pieces that I've made, and I like figured out how I got to scan them into the computer, and like it just like gave me anxiety. I'm thinking about how long it would take me to do that.
Yeah. Well, this is like a great encouragement as you sit down and you're like, what you're meditating on is like, okay, why am I doing this? Like I'm chasing all these other students, trying to fill up these rosters for these other people, because I'm assuming it's income, right?
Yep.
And and it's like finding another income stream, and what is it going to take to make that income stream for you really productive, and where's it going to tap out? Where's it going to peak out? Where's it going to have its limit?
Mhm.
So, and I think you're really awesome. You'll find the answer to that soon. Mike, I saw you unmuted. Do you want to contribute or maybe jump in? And
I wanted to ask Mike Dawson. I'm living in Texas. Um, where are you located? Where are you in the?
We're in Philadelphia in the mainline area, so we're right outside of Philly.
Okay, so you're over mainline.
Yeah.
So one of the things that popped in my mind as you were kind of talking about, because once Eric kind of interrogated you, and I've discovered that you have a visual artistic endeavor. Now, are these things that you want to be sold and hanging in people's homes, or is it stuff that's going to be used digitally? What kind of medium do you work in?
So it's all drawings. So here's sort of an example of one of them.
Okay.
This one is actually it's kind of small, but it's actually a 11 by 11. And so I've made some rather large ones. And originally it was all black and white prints, and then I put them up on Facebook for people to kind of just print them out themselves and do some art therapy of like coloring them in themselves. And then some people were like, well, you should sell these. And I was like, oh, well, let me think about that. And then people started liking how I colored it myself. And so there is some ideas of trying to sell like digital copies, maybe making a coloring book out of the ones that are all black and white. And as well as selling, I have a few friends who have purchased the ones themselves and put them up on their wall and in picture frames.
Cool.
So, yeah.
So do you have a way for the planet to see these besides your immediate circle of friends? Like, do you have a website yet or anything of that nature?
No, not yet. No.
That kind of in the works that you want to kind of figure out how to do that.
Yeah, it's in the the thought process. Like I said, there was a artist friend of mine who he sells large pieces of art of his own, and I asked him about how do you go about selling your artwork.
Yeah.
And so he gave me a bunch of like websites that you can do this on. That doesn't necessarily require you to have your own website. And
yeah, a lot of the photographer friends that I know, they do the same thing. They kind of go to those places where you can just get an account and then off and running.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. I was just kind of curious because one of the guys that I work with, who he has a background as a artist, a sculptor, and also as a painter. But he found his niche as a web designer to build things for big corporations. But he also works with a guy like me that needs websites for a business, a music business or a promoting an album of one form or another.
Mm-hmm.
So it just seems like a lot of what you do already as a musician, it seems like you might be kind of well positioned to create customized art for people that need album covers and posters and stuff like that. That might be a cool thing because I saw your thing and I'm thinking, oh wow, it kind of reminds me of some of the great poster art that I saw when I was a teenager, stuff like that. So,
yep, I got that vibe too, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something I was thinking about this weekend is like we grind out our lives and then like you draw an album cover that ends up being on an iconic album. And then suddenly you've got 1 million followers because of one thing you did, and it's like so many stories happen that way. I posted something on Twitter. I'm really finding a lot of value in Twitter lately because I don't know if you all use Twitter much, but Twitter is something that you really can connect you with people that are razor focused and kind of like what you're interested in. And I'm kind of getting a little bit into music academia. I love startup Twitter. Marketing Twitter is really great. But I posted something this week about just this idea of like, oh my gosh, like arts programs in general have to have more focus on business, right? And maybe half their curriculum should be. And it was a very widely retweeted and commented upon thing that had people from, hardcore academia that have never really had to go out and gig much in their life to, and what had prompted this is I read an article that that they had done a study. The New York Times did a study on Juilliard, Juilliard grads, 10 years after graduating from Juilliard, less than 23% of them had ever found employment as a classical musician. And I was like, imagine going to like Harvard Business School. It's like they have Harvard. I mean, it's insane. Like they, the reality, and the reason I mentioned it is Juilliard is known for not talking at all about business or talking about, you know, life outside of school. They're razor focused on creating brilliant artists, which is awesome. But the reality is, if you don't have a trust fund, right, you get out of school, you have like a 1 in 5 shot of getting an orchestra job, maybe in 10 years. Like that's a long time to be hoofing it for a job to make 70K, right? Which all of us could do tomorrow, doing our own little income quilt way of putting things together. So I was moved by that. And it just, you know, this idea of how we're all having to do the income quilt, finding the things that work for us, trying, you know, maybe hiring new people, doing art in hopes that one of these projects we do becomes something that could be, whether it's viral or really give us recognition. I mean, it's the nature of the beast, but it was really something I thought a lot about. I think Peter, did you just join us? Do we have some? Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I did. Hi.
All right. Hi there. How are you? Welcome.
I'm doing all right. Had to grab food before I could jump in.
Oh, very cool. Welcome. Well, we're just hanging out. We're talking about life, and what we're working on and problems we're trying to solve. Would someone else want to share something they're going through, or a win, or a problem they're trying to work on?
Well, the thing that I've been focusing on this week actually really hooks right into what we were just talking about. You know, the whole idea of, as artists, where do we find our jobs, and how the business side is not really taught. My issue has been like I've been for several years now seeing like all of the resources out there, like affordable resources, including some stuff where the thing that actually brought me to Fons, which was the music money formula thing, where it's all about like putting yourself out there and finding, you know, launching yourself in a way that actually becomes marketable. And there's always been something that has, even with those tools and resources, held me back. And it's been a process. And you guys have seen a lot of this because I will talk on Masterminds. And, you know, there's been several projects that I've been doing, including the affirmation art that I've done, including my whole like persona as a firm singer, and a lot of the things in my personal life that have led to this. Well, in the last week, something huge came to a head that finally I feel like gave me some direction in terms of, because you can't market yourself if you do not have a story. If you don't know what your story is, you just can't get yourself energetically aligned in a way that is going to bring in clients. Even when you do bring in the clients, like it might work out for a while and you might do it, but it kind of also might feel like you're running a cheese grater over your brain while you're trying to do it. So I'll try to make this short Reader's Digest. So I posted a prompt a few days ago on Facebook that's basically said, how are you going to tell other people's musical stories? Meaning, how are you going to perform other people's music if you don't respect and value your own story as a musician? And this had, like I said, a lot of things came together, you know, came to a head for me to have this epiphany, because what happened in my musical story that week is I, for the first time, brought the earliest music that I learned to sing when I was first starting voice lessons at around 13 or 14. I brought it to my current coach, who I've been working with for 2 years, and with, you know, who has seen me through some of the ugliest pieces of my just art, putting myself back together psychologically as an artist, but also, you know, helped me find the musical tools that I was missing, that, you know, were kind of the missing elements that were blocking me in my own technique. So I brought it to him, and it was Heinrich Schütz pieces. Now, if you're not familiar with Heinrich Schütz, he is basically pre-Bach, and he is credited with bringing the Italian style to Germany. Also, I grew up only like an hour or two north from where he hails from, as an aside, if I'm remembering my geography correctly. So, and the teacher who was teaching me these pieces was a stylistic specialist in this area. Of course, things that you can't appreciate when you're kids, which is why it's taken me so long to realize this. And we were also, observing, I was taking my lessons in our church sanctuary. So me in a German Lutheran church sanctuary, learning Heinrich Schütz, and we had access to an organ to do it with the organ. So also with stylistically appropriate musical accompaniment. And again, it has taken me now until my mid-30s to figure out the significance of this, because it was actually like one of those rare moments where you're learning the music in the type of space it was supposed to be sung, with the type of instrumentation. And also, this was the style of music I was hearing week in and week out going to church there, because, German Lutheran churches are kind of stuck in the past where their music is concerned. So I'm going through this and I'm looking at this, and he gave me some stylistic advice, which then yesterday at my other coaching, I came back and I'm like, I'm going to have to push back on some of this because I've realized a few things. And then, so that was like the backstory of what specifically happened with me. The next thing that hit me, this is like the next domino that like started tumbling over my brain, is crud. If it took me this long to actually understand and respect this very important piece of my own musical story, because when I had in the past have brought it to coaches and teachers, they haven't quite known, even the really trained ones haven't quite known what to do with it necessarily, and where it's just kind of gotten a little dismissed because it is very, very musically specialized, very early music specialized. If it's taken me this long because no one else knew quite how to explain to me how to value it, and my story was smack in the middle of Eurocentric musical history from whence came the music that I now sing, how much harder is it for people who did not come from that area of the globe? And and also in the midst of all of this, I'm reading the book, not watching the Amazon series. The Amazon series is completely different from the book in this case, Mozart in the Jungle, if you ever have heard of it. It's a very good book, much different from the actual from the series that they made out of it. And one of the points the author, Blair Tyndall, makes is how in the 70s and 80s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, the musical education, the classical music education system kind of took on this sort of industrialized feel, where a lot of people were taught how to play instruments and essentially taught musical snobbery with their instruments. And it churned out all these highly skilled people with not much personal story, not much personal connection to their audience. And I'm going, this whole system seems to inherently erase not only the diversity stories out there, but everyone's personal story gets sacrificed on the altar of making music and stylistic appropriateness. And so of course it's losing the human element. So again, all the dominoes start going. Plus, all the conversations I've had with, Tom has been one of those people just shortly over Messenger with people, in the African American community, and realizing that African American spirituals are actually a part of the bel canto tradition. If you look at, depending on how you look at it, that's kind of what they sprang from. So all these things are suddenly connecting in my head, and I'm thinking, we need to teach people people are being taught how to skillfully play their instruments and be skilled musicians. We need to teach people how to value their own stories and tell their own stories. So that was my big epiphany of the week, and that is the problem that I feel like I kind of finally fixed for myself that was blocking me for years. And that is, I think, what I am going to be in the next few weeks, trying to put together some sort of systemized thing to help other people come to those realizations for themselves.
You know what, Karen, let me just, because that is a lot.
I know.
Said. No, but I caught it all, and I caught at a really high, and I think it's really interesting, and I've been thinking about it a lot too, because it's not from my perspective as a classical guitar player. I mean, there's just what you there. I want to just kind of just touch base on what you said. One is that being an authentic human being that lives life, we all have this tale, like I grew up in a log cabin in Virginia, played a bunch of bluegrass, then went and studied classical guitar. Like by the time we get to be 30 or so, we've lived a life that we are unique, and it's a story that's our own. and we can either be really confident in it or we can feel like we are worthless, right? And we all are so unique that we should feel confident in that, especially if we're like really working to forward something, whether it's music or wellness or, you know, academics, whatever that is, whatever that thing is we're working on. We should be ultra confident in our authenticity, and that's what we're seeking. And you're saying our training keeps us from that authenticity, and more is like a goal of this sheen of perfection that we go for. And I would love to share an example. Classical guitar is the same thing, which is that when I went to music school, like, so you've heard of Andre Segovia. He was like the, you know, the big person that brought classical guitar to the forefront. And when I went to music school, he was out of fashion because he played with a bombastic style, tons of vibrato, you know, often, you know, just so much rubato that people were like, ah, this, and everybody were into this new, it was John Williams and Julian Bream, and then into this next era of guitarists. It is the same story you're telling, which they were technically brilliant. And just in the last couple weeks, I've been going back through, and you got sick of people at weddings being like, oh, you play guitar. Do you know Andre Segovia? So we pushed him aside because old people would ask about him. But the reality is that you listen to it now and it's magical, right? It's a magical recording of a timestamp of humanity, right? And he was completely free. And I never heard that until the last like couple months of paying attention and being like, wait, these people that I grew up idolizing were sterile in a way. They're perfect, but there was a sterility to it. And I think that has gotten more and more pronounced as the two following generations have happened. And now there's this kind of movement back to moving it to art. And this, I mean, it applies to anything. So anyway, I think what you're doing and uncovering is getting at, you're coming to an idea of a potential new way to present artistic training, right?
Yeah, well, it's something that's not, they both need to happen. The other piece of this realization for me is that so much of the message that I had been getting, me personally in my training, is, oh, you've got the musical building blocks, you've got the technique, you've got the musicianship, it sounds fine, just now let go and be free. And in the meanwhile, and this is where you guys heard last week my whole thing about like perfect tuning and equal, you know, how equal temperament ruined harmony, the book that I was introduced to and stuff, where I'm realizing that, you know, that piece of my instinct, it's more like my creative side had gone like this, and my analytical side in the meanwhile was getting a little bit repressed, because I'm extremely analytical, and a lot of musicians, a lot of my teachers in the past have said, oh, stop being so analytical about it. Well, ironically, the answer was to get even more analytical, to get even deeper into it so that the creative side had more of a safety net and could just go wild. But in order to do that, I had to figure out, where did this original analyticalness come from and where was it informed? And that's what brought me back to my own story with Heinrich Schütz. And you know, you have to connect it to something, to the thing that inspired you to play in the beginning, and build on that. And I think what we do in the classical world is we often superimpose something onto our own experience. Anyway.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And let's pull back from that just a little bit and kind of, you know, redirect it, because, you know, every week that I've ever known you, you've had an epiphany, right? Highly analytical, thoughtful, super intelligent, and you share your story in public. Right? You're a prime person that would be great to have a blog. I would read your blog every week. And so because you're on this crazy journey that is so exploratory, and it's like, here's your epiphany. And it's really like what you said today was really thought provoking, and really, it got into me where I was like, oh, this is changing my experience, and like really connects with how I'm experiencing it too. So I want to move on because I want to hear from some other people, but it might be something really cool for us to talk about is like, how can we, because you're not going to end this journey, by the way. Like, I've known you long enough to know that this is going to be something that's ongoing, and you're just going to be more interesting and more caring and more, you're going to have more epiphanies next week. I can't wait to hear what they are. Right. And, but it might be fun to put that in public, you know, as a way to be like, wow, this is the person I want to work with, because, you know, I feel that same way. And this is somebody, and that could be for you a strategy. Plus, It might be good to put that out there.
Yeah, well, that's been the different thing about this, is it finally feels like the thing that I actually want to bring out, as opposed to, this is a thing, but it feels peripheral. This is a thing, but feels peripheral. Wait a minute, this is what I'm actually interested in. So thank you for giving me the time. I'll shut up now.
Oh my gosh. No, it was beautiful. And I think that these are long term, these are the ways that we kind of find what works for us. So I would love to invite someone else to share project they're working on, challenge they're working on, or working through a win from this week. Maya, I see you just joined us, and we're a new friend. I think this is your first visit here, but we've been kind of just getting to know each other. If you want to say hi, it'd be great. No pressure. If you're not, you can just kind of hang out.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that.
You're a violinist in New York City.
Yes, I'm a violinist. I'm an educator, and a violin teacher. I have currently 15 students in my studio, partially private and part at a school that I teach at. I love them all. I lost a few, a year ago when this thing happened. But yeah, it was actually not so horrible at the end of the thing, because the ones that stayed are the ones that are super aligned with me and what I want to work with. So all in all, things are pretty good in that area. I am based in New York City, but I'm currently in Tel Aviv, which is where I'm from, visiting my family. Cool. For the first time in a very long time. So that's why I'm like, I wanted to hop on the call from the beginning, but family time.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm just, really, really happy to join this amazing community, and there's so much innovation and talent and cool ideas, and I'm happy to hear your thoughts and the ways that you work and have been working with your students. And I guess, the things that interest me the most at the moment is how to make my students happy and engaged and learn and really get the results that they want. And B, get more students that I like working with. So
yes,
that's my take.
Maya, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're getting to visit your family. That's amazing. I haven't, this is the first time I've met you, but I have gotten an amazing sense of good energy and positivity from everything. You can do that through social media. And that's Thanks. So hard to do. And I really appreciate that. And I know it sounds like your studio is really successful and is going to continue to be. We spend a lot of time talking about how to build them. And I love the idea of just making them happy, because that's, for all of us that have been doing it a really long time, we know that's kind of the key,
right.
Bringing in more. So thank you for saying hi. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but
good. Thank you. I really, really, really appreciate your warm welcome and, the way that you're building this community to really be like a small family. So thank you for all of that.
You're well. You know what? I was talking earlier today, and I was talking about I this last weekend, I just deep dove into the thinking of and just writing and thinking, and I spent the weekend doing that. And one of the big feelings that I experienced about midway through that journey was, if I'm really honest, I felt a sense of disappointment in the greater community of people that do the type of work we do. And it was a passing emotion where I was like, my teachers, the people that I studied with, my grandfather, who was a lifelong educator, and where they kind of position themselves in their minds within our society, and like where I think we belong, which I think all the people that do stuff like we do, right? Whether you're, really into helping people study yoga, or whether you're really into helping people master violin, like if that's the energy that you're putting out there and that's what you're doing, it's such a meaningful life, and it's so worthwhile of feeling really great about yourself about, and be like, yes, this is amazing, kick-ass work. Yes, I deserve to be paid a lot for it because it's a really important job. And the people that I work for, that I work with, they really appreciate me. And I think I spend so much time in these other groups and these other communities, and I read through every comment, and it makes me feel like, wow, think more of yourself. You're so awesome. But it's they have this slow, and I feel like that's a core of this group, is these folks have great energy, and and I think that might be something that's kind of an underpinning of all of us, right? That brings us together. It's like, yeah, we're doing this for real. Like, this is our life, our one awesome, amazing life, and we're doing really great work. And yeah, we're gonna make great livings for it, and we're also going to really help people out. So I think,
yeah, that's a super important point, and you know, it's amazing that you think this way, and that you're giving it forward, you know, like it's I 100% agree with you, and I think it's like a vicious cycle of people in our industry putting themselves in that position of like, oh, I'm the small music teacher who, it's just your hobby, you know, 1 out of 20, and it's okay, don't pay me so much, because if I go, your life is not going to be ruined or whatever. And I think it's easy to fall in the trap, but and that's why it's great to have a community like this, so that you have people to get help you get your mind straight.
yeah, it's a different path for us. That's beautiful. Well, thank you for saying hello. And if you need to get back to your family,
Sure.
please do. I'm so happy you're there visiting them. Could I invite someone else to jump off these ideas, or maybe share a win or a problem or something they'd want? I can't see everybody. We have a pretty good crowd here. So if someone would like to just jump in and say hello, please feel free. We have plenty of time, and we'd love to hear from you. Joellen, another newbie. For those that weren't here when Joellen first got on, as soon as she logged in, I promptly said, Joellen, you're new here. Are you prepared to give a 30-minute presentation to the group today? Because that's what everybody does. I was
I'm ready to give my 30-minute speech here.
Yeah, what's going on, Joellen? Nice to see you.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about what like Maya was saying, and connecting what Maya's saying and Karen saying about like how she wants to make the students happy, and what can I do, kind of being put in a position where I can make my students happy. And Karen talking about helping people express themselves instead of it all being in the skill set, and thinking about how when we want to put all this together, I just remember taking guitar lessons a long time ago, and my guitar teacher was very much like that. But just talking about having a balance with it, because I was coming from a classical background thinking, oh, he's going to teach me everything I need to know about guitar. And he was like, okay, what do you want to learn this week? I'm like, I don't know, what am I supposed to learn this week? So it was always totally relied on me to bring, cassette tape or whatever, to what are we going to learn this way? But I wanted that foundation too. It's like I wanted to express myself, but also have that foundation. Well, there are things that I don't know what I don't know, and I don't know what I need to know. So I think it's like there's a balance that we got to find, where we want to be, we want to help our students like express themselves and make the music that makes them happy, but also give them the foundation they need in order to progress as students, progress further. And I think like the piano lessons I grew up with, it was just, this is how it is, and this is the path. And it's just really making it interest led, but having a good foundation as a teacher of understanding what is it that all musicians need to learn in order to just do better.
I know exactly what you're saying. Hey, Joelle, can you tell us a little about yourself and where you're from? Just because
I'm in Frederick, Maryland, and teach piano lessons. I have about 28 students.
By the way, I was born in Frederick, Maryland. Spent 12 years of my life in Mount Airy.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I'm in Imesville, so like before on the call, but yeah, like 15 minutes away.
I bought my first guitar I purchased in a little guitar shop in Frederick.
Which shop was that?
I don't remember. I don't even remember. It was like 1980 something. Yeah, it was a little hole in the wall.
Oh,
happiest day ever.
Yeah.
And you're a piano teacher?
Yeah, I teach piano lessons. So I'm being converted into Tony Parlapiano's Popmatics method, and really enjoying that.
So that's another prime example And that piano teacher, like Tony has been so good for the piano teacher community, not just for his methodology, but he has just got it. He's created a beautiful life for himself. He makes a great living. He is so helpful. His clients love him. I've been referring family friends to him from here in Seattle because I'm like, oh, this kid would thrive under Tony, because that's the energy, which is like, yes, let's make you love playing this instrument so much. And so there's certain people that will call. I get called all the time for recommendations for lessons. And when I think, oh, this is a person that could draw a kid in to a lifelong loving of learning music. And Tony doesn't even have a classical background. He started playing piano when he was like 19 or something. But his interest in it is so correlates to how a kid would see it, that curiosity and like, here's a way to make this happen. And I think it doesn't matter what we're teaching, doesn't matter what we're doing for business. It is an awesome way to do it. And I'm glad he's putting it into a formula for what he does, because he's doing really cool work.
Well, and his lessons have that balance, because when I've taken a lesson or two from him, and it's like so much math, numbers, and and it's so serious in that sense with the foundation. But then the way we use it is any music you want to learn, so that you get that self-expression. So I think it's just that you find that balance where it has a strong structure, that strong foundation, but we want to use that in a way that the students can just express themselves with it. They can play what they want. And I think in the ins and outs of it, it's a lot of going back and forth. So there's lessons, and then there's hey, what do you want to play? And then trying to extract lessons from the song choice that they have, the music choice that they have. What is this? What can this song teach us? What is this song is geared towards? To help us, what higher principles can we learn from that, even whether it's theory or just functional harmony or anything like that?
Yep. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I'm really grateful you came today. One other thing while we're talking about this concept is that I've really learned from Tony, because I feel like something I had more than pretty much anybody I've seen in the Fons universe is his entire his business agreement with his clients is one sentence, right? He takes the same vibe that he does with his in his lessons to his business model, which is like, hey, I'm going to make this awesome. If you don't want to come, don't pay me. I think he'll share it with you. His entire term sheet for signing up to study with him is one sentence, which is basically like, hey, this is my cancellation policy. And he's so darn cool about it. He'll just, it's one sentence. I have like 36 hours or something, and you pay me this much. And that's it. He's like, if you don't want to come, I don't want you to come. If something really bad happens, you have a car accident, I don't want to charge you because I'm a human being. If you blow me off, I'm going to bill your card, right? And what that does is that his clients, because I personally know some of his clients, they call me all the time, like, that dude is so cool. My daughter never wants to miss a lesson with him. And it's like, oh, his way of being, he's crafted a business model that comes across so lax that it's not lax at all. It's like sticky. No one wants to leave. Everybody wants in, and he can charge whatever he wants, right? And it's like, wow, there is something to be. I used to have this like page long. This is the requirements that I have. I need at least an hour a day of practice. I'm very serious. I'm a big deal. And A, nobody reads those. B, no one cares. C, you can't enforce. I need 30 days notice if you're going to quit with me. Dude, no one's going to do that. If someone has decided that they don't love working with you anymore, those last 30 days are miserable. You don't want to bill them. You want to bring somebody else in. So that is, gosh, if you're ever looking to streamline your policies, Tony you should just message him and he'll share them with you. And it's shocking. It's like one sentence, crystal clear. And I stole it from him. So I would encourage doing similar if you get a chance. Well, anyway, I'll let that idea go. And would someone else like to, we have some time left, share a project, a story? Hi, Mike. What's up, dude?
Hey, I wanted to ask Karen. Hey, Karen, do you know about the musical work Journey into Jazz?
I do not. That sounds awesome.
So,
hey, Mike, can you introduce yourself? Just a 1 second introduction too, please.
My name is Mike Dawson. I live in Texas and spend as much time as I can in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'm a songwriter, and like everybody else here, I teach and try to figure it out every day.
Wait a second. Mike also does massive projects at scale around the world, managed from where he is, and they're really cool. So,
Yeah, thanks,
I mean,
man.
I'm just really impressed with what you do. I listen to the music and I'm like, gosh, I can't believe you pulled this off. So yeah, if you get a chance, check out Mike's projects he's been working on this year, because they're awesome.
Yeah, that's at roarelectra.com. Just Roar Electra with a C. So
Sorry, ask your question.
I
Sorry.
wanted to ask Karen about this. There's a musical work by Gunther Schuller, and he's an educator. He was one of the guys that was really important with the New England Conservatory. But he wrote this piece of music called "Journey into Jazz." That it could have been your epiphany, your paradigm shift today, because what he did, it's a narration. About it's kind of like stolen from Peter and the Wolf, but it's about a guy trying to figure out jazz music when he's a great classical musician and he wants to hang out with all the jazz guys.
Can you?
Like Leonard, yeah, I'll
yeah, that sounds amazing.
I'll put a post about today's conversation, because I think I'll probably, this one's awesome. I'm gonna put this up on YouTube. I think
this is from Leonard Bernstein's Young People's Concerts. It's one of the real early ones. It's part of my research that I'm doing. And this journey into jazz is a narration, kind of like Peter and the Wolf, but it's about jazz. And so it's the New York Philharmonic with a jazz band in like the early 60s before the Beatles hit. And it's really cool. But the whole conversation before the performance is what you're talking about trying to find story and your own personal relationship with music and how to communicate that enthusiasm to students. And I would highly recommend it. I'm sure it's a YouTube clip, but I'll look for it here in a second. But I just wanted to make you aware of it because I think it would really be cool for you to watch. It's an hour. So
I know what I'm doing exactly when we log off here.
Beautiful.
It's a lot of fun. I'll find the YouTube clip here now.
Dude, thanks, Mike.
Sure.
Thanks for being here, man. It's good to see you.
Yeah. Find that.
Is there anybody we haven't gotten to hear from today that would like to share something? I can't see everybody we're in speaker view here, but I want to make sure that we touch. Peter, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, but I got to run because we have a lesson.
Oh yeah, you got a lesson. You got yourself a, what is it, a 2 there?
Yeah, 2:00. Actually,
Okay.
It's my wife's lesson, but we just have the one teaching station here, so.
I hear that. Well,
I do want to say really quick what we were talking about before when you're describing Tony's approach and like the balance between, providing the foundation and like something that students like. It sounded to me like you were describing our guitar teacher that we hired this past year, and I wish we had more time to chat about it, but I got to run. But one of my challenges is just finding a student base for him because we've been in business for 8-9 years, something like that, and people know us mostly for piano and violin lessons. And so like branching out and getting students that are interested in something else on board is something we're working on.
So it might be good. You know who's really grinding on this is Sitzler. I don't know if he's still here. We were talking about
he had
earlier
to
before you
leave
came in.
earlier, yeah.
But this idea of getting focused. Hey, what kind of guitar is that white guitar behind you?
Oh, it says Ibanez, but it's not.
Okay.
I'll tell you about it later.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I was like, oh, that looks very familiar. Anyway, but yeah, he would be a great guy to jam with. And that's something we can definitely dive into deeper as a group as well. How to get, and you have to run into a lesson. So go ahead and do what you have to do. But it's good to see your faces.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for being here. This was an awesome week.